President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived in the United Kingdom ahead of a summit of the European political community. He's been speaking ahead of that meeting and he's urged continued support and unity from Europe. Zelensky also rejecting attempts to cut deals with Moscow behind Kyiv's back. That's after Hungary's Viktor Orban met with Vladimir Putin in a solo visit to Moscow. Well, joining me now is France 24's chief editor of international affairs, Rob Parsons. Rob, we've heard these statements by Volodymyr Zelensky.
Yeah.
It's a very important summit and European unity very much on the agenda. What else has he said?
Yeah, well, it's as you say, it's an important summit, the first of its kind. Much of it's obviously going to be about the relationship between Britain and the European Union, the fact that Keir Starmer has just been elected Prime Minister in the UK. He's already been making very positive statements about trying to recalibrate the relationship. But yes, Ukraine is one of the key issues that's going to be discussed, and already we've heard several speakers talking about it, including, as you mentioned, Volodymyr Zelensky, who's been urging unity. He will have been encouraged by a very strong statement by Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister, saying that this was not the moment to back off. This was the moment to go stronger, to give more aid, military aid to Ukraine, not to relax and not to enter into negotiations in a swipe, I think, against Viktor Orban, who you mentioned went to Moscow without agreeing beforehand with the European Union on his so-called peace negotiations. Not the moment for negotiations with Vladimir Putin, she said, not a man you can trust. It's 10 years since Russia invaded Crimea. He couldn't be trusted then, he can't be trusted now. Music to Volodymyr Zelensky's ears, who's been calling, of course, for more air cover, after, the energy in Ukraine has been completely, or not completely, but at least 50% destroyed by Russia's attacks over the last several months. He wants more air cover, he wants more ammunition to attack launch bases for Russian missiles and that sort of thing. He's already been getting promises from individual countries. The European Union is a major supplier. He's just saying, keep up the unity. Don't be swayed by siren messages. Again, I presume referring obliquely to Viktor Orban in his trip to Moscow. Don't be persuaded by that. And at the same time, he's saying, there are positive messages coming from the front line as well, claiming that Ukraine has effectively ended the Russian offensive around Kharkiv, that it's already pushed the Russian fleet effectively out of Crimea by destroying at least a third of its naval vessels, forcing the others to move further away to Novorossiysk, another Russian port on the Black Sea. His message was things are going reasonably well, successes here and there, but we still need more air cover, we still need your support, we still need your unity to be behind us.
So a very crucial meeting now between those leaders. And you talked about music to Volodymyr Zelensky's ears. Certainly another announcement this week has been now the re-election of Ursula von der Leyen as the EU Commission chief. Such has been her support of Ukraine. But then on the other side, you've got Donald Trump appointing a Ukraine skeptic in J.D. Vance as his running mate for vice president. How do you think Zelensky is feeling at this point in time?
Yeah, mixed messages. I think he'll be quite cautious about J.D. Vance. It's true that there have been some pretty negative statements made by him about Ukraine over the last couple of years. Just before the invasion, for instance, he said he couldn't care less what happened to Ukraine. He wasn't interested in that border between Russia and Ukraine, suggesting it wasn't a prime US interest. And this year at the Munich Security Conference, he was talking again about it, saying, as far as he was concerned, he didn't see Russia as a particular threat to the European Union, but that if it was, it's up to the European Union to step up to the mark and provide its own defence. There are many actually in the European Union who would also, at least part of the way down the line, would support that idea as well. But on the idea of what does J.D. Vance represent, I think ultimately Zelensky will see him pretty much as a cipher for Donald Trump. Whatever Donald Trump decides, J.D. Vance will do. So I'm not sure that he's going to be persuaded one way or the other by statements that J.D. Vance has been making either this year or previously. But he will be concerned, obviously, about the possibility of Trump becoming president in November this year, if that should happen, because quite clearly Trump does not represent the sort of support for Ukraine that Biden does. That said, there are many in the Republican Party in Congress who are very strongly in support, if not a majority of Republican members of Congress who are strongly in support of Ukraine. But to get back to the good message, yes, the fact that Ursula von der Leyen has been re-elected as President of the European Commission, a massive boost for Ukraine, given the fact that she has been such a strong supporter for Ukraine ever since the start of the conflict, and has said that in her second term she will make trying to get Ukraine into the European Union one of the central planks of what she's trying to do. So he will be feeling massively encouraged by that, obviously concerned about what's going on in America. But for the moment, things are going reasonably well for Ukraine.
At least he can be counting on his European partners in the next 5 years. We'll see what kind of unity that it does bring for Ukraine, of course. Rob, thank you so much, as always. Rob Parsons, our Chief International Editor.